Well, howdy there, friends. How's everybody doing on this fine day? I suppose it's August 31st, I believe, 2021. I just got back from a long weekend and I was going to share a few thoughts about not just my personal experience at the Phish concert and in the Gorge, but some of the funny things I've discovered going to concerts and festivals at various times in my life. The amount of waste that there is at these events is extreme. But I'll get into that in a minute. Hopefully, I don't bore you, but I find some of these stories fascinating and hilarious because every time I go to these events, there's always some weird shit that happens. So this time, it's obviously we had tickets for the Phish in the Gorge in 2020, and they canceled the show for COVID reasons, obviously. So for that entire year, those of us who go to shows didn't get to go to any. And it sucked. It's like music is our fix, right? So when they rescheduled it, they actually rescheduled it twice. They bumped it forward to the end of August, the one we just went to, from I think like June or early July. But we all waited patiently, and about 2 weeks before, they sent out notice to everybody saying, okay, starting in the Gorge, you have to be fully vaccinated or have a negative COVID test within 48 hours of going into the venue. And this is getting to be a pretty common thing. And of course, I panicked. I'm like, great. This means that before I go in, because I'm not vaxxed, but even like my son who has the first one, they needed a full card. They wanted the complete series. So even if I'd gone out and got one, it wouldn't have worked anyway. So I said, okay, this means I'm forced to get a test. That means while we're getting all ready to go Thursday morning, I have to go out. I think I went out Wednesday evening, or was it Thursday? Maybe it was Thursday. That's right, it was Thursday. Yeah, it was the day we were leaving. And we went to get a test, and we had to sit in line for like ever. Because the pharmacy was short staffed. These are how all these events always start out. Point being, you think you're going on a vacation, right, to have fun. And then a bunch of crap happens. But anyhow, we got the test done, and then they said it would be a few hours for results, but it ended up never coming in. And just as we were pulling the bus out to leave, it was like 5 p.m., I looked and my email popped up. There it was. So I had to go back inside. But we printed the negative test results, meaning we did it on Thursday, because the shows were Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But it says as long as you have one test, you get a wristband, which is what we figured would happen, saying that you're either tested or. And the funny thing is, even though masks were suggested, hardly anybody had one on naturally. But those who had actually had tests, they're the only ones that even, it could have been a false negative. There's just so much of that crap going around. And the point being, it was a big risk, right? But it's a worthy risk for people to go hear live music again. So we drove all the way out there, and it's like, mind you, it's a 4.5 hour drive in a car. If you got a fast car, it's about a 6.5 hour drive in my bus. The hills, I can go like 30 miles an hour up some of those hills out in the desert. So that's why we kind of left in the evening. Met a friend of mine, Space, and Eleanor, and Eleanor's kids. They have a school bus they just bought, and we met them outside of the venue up there, and then we all drove in together. So we all got there about midnight, pretty late. And mind you, the show starts Friday, but they always start filling the campground on Thursday, which is great. You get an extra night to like just kind of be there before the show instead of driving because it's so far away. So everything was all fine. We got our camping spot. We kind of just drove in and parked wherever we wanted because that late at night, here's my tip to anyone going to the Gorge. Show up late at night. They will direct you and take your camping pass, but after that, usually you're just kind of on your own. You just drive down and find a place, and they were short-staffed, I'm sure, too. So we found this awesome spot where we could set up because my son was coming to meet us, and we needed to reserve some spots for him and his crew. And it was freaking wonderful. It turned out perfect. We had a lot of room. My son set up his equipment there. They have a band called Cats on a Tin Roof, and they do Grateful Dead covers. And so that night when we played, I think it was Friday night that they played, we had a huge crowd of like 100 people around our campsite dancing and having a great old time. um, and just playing out there in the middle of a field with people coming and going, and balloons and tanks going, and people partying it up. And there's no security. It's totally lax these days. They're not out there trying to bust everyone like they were in the past. They've basically just given up because they're short staffed, which they should. I mean, because if you've never been to a concert like that, the lot is just the Wild West. I mean, people running around loaded on every substance known to mankind. But for me personally, I like to party a little bit, but I like to keep my senses about me. I like to be moderate, not overdo things. I still like to go to sleep and actually get, a few hours of rest. But when you're around all that excitement, it's kind of hard. So the craziest shit happened while I was there, and I could probably think of a few funny stories we had. I was going to talk about boofing hot peppers with, quote, all the drugs, as somebody said when they were there. This story they'd heard of somebody else who had basically gone over the top. It's the warning story of don't be this guy, right? Disappeared at the beginning of a festival, basically took a whole bunch of substances, came out of the woods the last day with a loincloth he'd woven out of like vines out in the forest. And I love stories like that. It's kind of a gross story, so I'm not going to go into detail, but at these events, there's the Nitrous Mafia, for example, which these are guys who come from the East Coast, and as soon as the concert gets out, they set up the nitrous tanks on the trail, the path. They have security. They've got guys watching, lookout guys, money runners. I mean, it's a whole big business. But on the side, you've got the hippies who bring their own tanks. As you can see behind me, I wanted to point it out. This is a tank. Even the deposit on these tanks are like 100, maybe 150. I don't even know what they are anymore. It was in a dumpster pile, in the junk pile. And this is really what I wanted to talk about. I could just take that back for the deposit alone. The people who go to some of these concerts and festivals have enough money to burn to where they can fly in. Now, when you fly into a concert like that and you camp for 4 days, you only have one option. You rent a car, you go down to Walmart or wherever you shop, and they buy up those canopies, the pop-up canopies. They buy tents. They will buy camp chairs, stoves, everything. All brand new, right? Then they drive up, they camp for 3 days, and then they literally dump it in the garbage pile. Basically, the whole thing's laid out kind of like a big circle in a field, the campground, and there's several garbage bins laid out randomly. Monday morning, when everybody's leaving, you can walk over to one of those garbage areas, and there are just stacks of air mattresses, coolers. I'm not kidding. Not crappy used stuff like a guy brought it and just couldn't fit it. You'll find plenty of that. Broken stuff, too. In just the 2 little garbage areas that were within 50 to 100 steps from my camp, I kept going back and from these 2 piles back and forth as people were putting stuff in there. I got like 6 new coolers, a whole bunch of, smaller coolers. Half of them were loaded with beer and soda. I'm not even kidding. Like, people had thrown away dozens of cans of just like full 12 packs of soda, full 6 packs of beer. I have a whole cooler just packed with different drinks that were all in just, a pile. The people are going to the airport afterwards and they can't take anything with them. I mean, these are the kind of people who have money to spare and they'll throw away probably all their substances or give them away too. But to not even assume that people might want that. I saw one of this, because the Live Nation who work there, they are the cleanup crew afterwards. They'll start walking through at around 11 a.m. and grabbing stuff they like. In fact, they have a specific truck I saw drive through that was only picking up Easy Ups. It cracked me up because he had like a whole pile of them on the back, because there's that many of them. And the Easy Ups are those 10 or 12 foot canopies, right? The pop-up kind of shelter tents. Those things can be like $200 for the nice ones. And these still have tags hanging off of them. I got, I think, 3 Easy Ups. One of them my buddy took. I got like 8 or 9 camp chairs with the bags, with the tags still hanging on them. I have a picture of just all the stuff. I could only fit so much in my bus too, because I was bringing home my wife and son, and we already had all our guitar equipment. Long story short, if I'd put in my effort, I probably could have just had an endless supply of, stuff to sell. A person could actually make a living selling this shit on Craigslist. So as we're leaving, I look over on the left, and there's a dumpster, one of those monster huge dumpsters, and overflowing on the top is nothing but frames from Easy Ups and chairs. And I just think about how much waste as a society, trying to be sustainable, the ridiculous nature of waste that goes into just a Phish concert, right? The weekend before was Bass Canyon, and I can imagine it was the exact same thing. I would like to say that the first night that we went in, we had really no problems. We got our tickets at the window there, which we'd paid for already, but had some issue with having to download an app, right? You got to download the Live Nation app, then the Ticketmaster app, then connect all this shit. I just hate doing that. So the first night we got our tickets, we walked up to the gate, we walked right through, then right up to the ticket place, and they waved us through, didn't even pat us down or anything. The next night there was a huge line of people waiting to get in these waves. And what I'd like to say is, if you want to go to the Gorge, be aware that there's no consistency in security. I mean, they do it differently, it seems like, every time. By the third night, they were being sticklers, and they were they confiscated some of my stuff. Somebody might have seen my live stream. I forgot I had it going, and as I was going through the gate, the guy said, "You can't have that in here." I was like, "What? GoPro? You gotta go back to camp." It's like, no. It's like, you can't take it. And I argued with the guy, and I know I was being a little harsh, but I was frustrated because the night before they'd said there was no problems. I had gone to the website. I'd specifically looked to see if there were any new GoPro editions, and there was nothing. All it says is no professional or detachable lens cameras. And that's understandable, sure. What I told the guy was, you realize, he said something about 4K. I was like, you realize your phone takes 4K too, right? He's like, I know, it's just the rules. And mind you, these are young kids, like 18-year-old kids, maybe even younger. I don't know how, some of these kids look really young. And they're in charge of security at concerts where they have to pat people down and take their stuff. So these garbage cans are just completely full of drugs. I'm not kidding. I mean, so many people get their crap taken. Vape pen, hash pens, chunks of hash. Well, they pushed it a step too far. 2 people in our group had this happen to them. Searched their wallets and found whatever they had in there and made them, or dumped it in the garbage. That pissed me off, and it pissed my friend off. He kind of went over the top there. He was angry, but I don't blame him, because searching the inside of a guy's wallet is just really unacceptable. If you're really looking for weapons, right? I mean, it's not like it's going to be a drug-free atmosphere at a Phish show. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of pathetic, but at any rate, it is what it is. Yeah, there's a lot of ground scores to be had at places like this, and there are people who just walk around with flashlights and just pick up stuff they find. In fact, after my son played with his band, the second night, there must have been 150 people dancing and just partying, and when it was over, they all took off around 3 a.m., and I was like, it was getting towards dawn. I was like, well, we should go ground score, and we just looked around the area to see if we dropped anything. Within just our little campsite, we found we thought it was opal. I think it was a moonstone, sterling ring, a rolled up $20 bill somebody was using for, whatever they were using it for, and a bunch of other stuff I can't even remember. It's just amazing the amount of stuff that you can find, and really could, like, if you pay attention, But you look kind of stupid if you're just walking around looking on the ground all the time for stuff. It's like, I'm not there to get a bunch of free stuff. I'm there for the atmosphere, for the concert. But it doesn't hurt at the end to just grab a bunch of things that people leave there. It's just insane. But, so anyway, I think I've covered all the points I wanted to. I don't like Live Nation. I don't appreciate the way that they go about their business. I think that they should have some more consistency. But at that point, I was just glad to be there. The strange thing was, okay, so my buddy's Space, his girlfriend Eleanor, and she has 2 kids. These kids were awesome, dude. They were like, they would fight because they're brothers, of course. It was Zane and Ezra. And these little hippie kids running around the parking lot, I think we asked them to wash some dishes. We said, I'll give you $5 if you go wash our dishes. And they're like, okay. So they come back, and then they have this bright idea to go around and ask everybody in the campground if they can wash their dishes. Came back with $100. They washed all these people's dishes. They kept coming back with like 40, then 60, then 100. Then they'd come back with stuff they'd bought, and then they'd have to go out and make more money. These kids are hustling, they're hustling a lot. And then that's just the thing. You can make some pretty good money if you do that. I sold a few things. I had since I'm already a kratom vendor, I just brought my kratom and just set that up. Sold a bit of that. And some of my, a couple pairs of these sparkly glasses I bought. You can buy bulk, like prism glasses, the really cool ones, for pretty cheap if you buy them in bulk overseas. And people love them. A person's out there, they've taken some substance and they want to have a good time, and they see these sparkly looking kaleidoscope glasses they can put on, and they're like, oh my God, these are awesome. Sometimes just being a childish dork and getting a little wild is, fun. By the way, this was a ground score I found laying on the hillside at the show. Pretty awesome little shirt. I liked it. But times have changed. I mean, psychedelics have always been there, always been prevalent. But as I was talking with one guy, it's like all the kids are into ketamine these days. It's like become the thing. It's like people just want to be incapacitated, out of their minds, or not within their right minds. I get wanting to have altered states, but I guess the atmosphere kind of changes and the attitudes change with people. I guess the only thing left to cover is my pants. Oh, I did buy some delicious honey. It's so good. It's creamed honey, but it's like from this farmer dude. So I bought these pants off my buddy. Rainbow Rags makes them. Don runs Rainbow Rags. I bought a hoodie from them. Oh, my buddy Scott used to work for them, and he worked for her husband repairing typewriters? No. Maybe. No. Sewing machines. Anyway, she made these patchwork pants. And I have a pair from like way back when, but they're really nicely done. These are a little shorter than I'd like, but they work. So they do all the different patchworks. Then it's got the steely pocket. Then it's got a zipper pocket right here as well. And I kind of like the way that the inner seam is like one color. And the other side's similar, but not the same. And each type of patchwork is it's got its own texture, its own unique nature. And then the back patch on the back pocket, flower of life. Yeah. So these are the kind of pants that, they're lot pants. They're for wearing out there when you're at shows and stuff. But like everybody has them. And since they've always been the trendy thing, I have always been like, I don't really need a pair. But I finally broke down and just got one. Because I do like them and they are cool as hell. So I think I've covered my trip, my vacation. It was fun. It was a little bit draining. But like I said, all of our vacations seemed to be a lot more work than we realized at the time. But man, getting in there and hearing live music again with a group of people, it was a damn good time. Talk to y'all later. Maybe one day I'll put together and edit something like 250 gigabytes worth of footage. Because I use my GoPro constantly and I'm always recording. And so I've got tons of footage of the events and all the shit that transpired and walking around the parking lot. And I just don't know what to share. I have to edit some stuff together. Figure that out in the future. Anyway, for now, got to get unpacked, get cleaned up. Too much crap to do. Talk to you next time. Peace out.